Welcome. I'm Amy Friesen of Tea and Toast, and today we're talking about accessibility, whether you're staying in your own home or looking at a retirement home, things that you can do to remain safe and avoid falls. My guest today is Kyla McGinnis of Build Able. Enjoy. Hi everyone. I'm Amy Friesen. I am the owner of Tea and Toast, and we specialize in the elder care journey, so helping people stay at home and talk about safety features, helping people figure out the housing system, whether they're moving to retirement or long-term care, and really just the whole elder care journey, working with them and stepping on the same path as they are going through it, because it can be very complicated. So today I have Kyla McGinnis with me, and she's from Build Able. And Kyla, do you want to just do a brief introduction? Tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So again, my name's Kyla. I'm one of the co-founders of Build Able. This is an accessible design and renovation company. So we specialize in making homes barrier-free. We not only help seniors, but often a big part of our work is actually younger clients who are living with newly acquired disabilities or injuries. So I'm a clinical nurse specialist by trade, but this is my full-time gig now, and I love what we get to do.
We're fortunate to have you. Thank you for instilling your knowledge on us. Kyla and I have known each other for years, and best in the business, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Their team will take care of you. So today we're gonna have a conversation about home safety and talk through some of the stuff. If you have any questions while we're chatting, please feel free to put them in the chat. If I don't get to them in the webinar, then I will also answer them. We'll go through them at the end, and we'll go through that. So, Kyla, can we maybe talk about falls to start with? So one of the main things that comes up when we're consulting with people is trying to keep them safe at home. Of course, falls can happen anywhere. So if they move to long-term care, retirement, anything like that, falls can happen anywhere. But for the people that stay at home, I find that a lot of people are still in two stories. I find that a lot of people nod and smile, I guess, when I say falls are really not a thing you want to deal with, because in my experience, we've seen people have a fall and it changed their life completely. And you just never know what's going to happen. It'll affect people physically, like hips or whatnot, and they have to recover from that. And then often can't go home depending on the situation. Or cognitively, especially if someone has dementia or whatnot, it just kind of messes with their brain. So maybe from your point of view, can we talk about falls?
Yeah, 100%. That's our biggest concern too. And I think that it really is the impetus for either bringing us in to modify a home or retirement home, because we often work in those situations, those institutions as well. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Amy, but I'm sure you get lots of calls after a fall has happened and realizing a home is no longer accessible and we need to make a move. The thing I think that's important to recognize, and there's a lot of stigma around falls, and I'm not sure we think it's only elderly people that are going to fall. We have a huge fall rate in Canada. And in the summer too. I know there's probably some ice and snow influence there that takes us down, but all ages, across all spectrums, it's the number one reason people end up in the hospital for all age categories. The big concern, though, is that as we get older, or if we're already living with a disability or chronic illness, our recovery time is so much longer, and the impacts from that can be a really detrimental in terms of whether you get to come home from the hospital or not. And we know through the Public Health Agency of Canada that studies this, and our rates going into hospital, 50% of our falls, 50% of people, that have an injurious fall and they go to the hospital, they end up going to long-term care facilities. So this isn't often, most of the time, this isn't going to be a first choice for people. If you're living at home and, you're not prepared, there's a fall, it happens to all of us. The last thing you want to happen is not to be able to go back home. So it's a really serious concern. The other thing is, as we get older and we're less malleable than kids that break an arm and, they're back out on the play structures the next day. is the hip fracture that you mentioned, Amy. So that dreaded hip fracture, and why that's such a big concern. Our stats in Canada show that 1 out of 5 hip fractures will not live until the end of the year. So it's not even just a matter of will you go home, will you go to a long-term care facility, how will your recovery be? There is an actual significant risk of death. That's 20% of hip fractures. So it's a very serious concern. As you mentioned, there's all these other things that could happen, cognitive as well. And when we're in hospital for a long period of time recovering, there's also the risk of delirium that we can see happening. It's not always the best place. It's where you want to be to recover, but at the same time, it's not the best place cognitively to return to maximum functioning as well. So a huge piece of what we do is with our renovations, at least, or modifications, is it's all about preventing the falls, being able to move around your house without that risk, and being able to do it without concern, and really enjoy your life at home without that chance that there may be a serious fall.
Yeah, and I think that like a couple of things too. It's that, people, especially when you're at home, a lot of people tell us, I'm going out feet first. I'm not going to make a move. We're on board. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. The problem though is that people don't plan to stay at home. They say they're going to stay home, they're not going to move, and then they don't actually make a plan. And to which I always say, make the plan, make sure that you've looked and the fall safety aspects are taken care of, because if you don't plan, you're planning to fail essentially, right? And so, I've seen people struggle. I've had people with multiple falls and just have told me, essentially we're just waiting for a crisis to make a move. And the thing is that a lot of the time, people who are at home aren't necessarily looking for long-term care. They don't want to go to long-term care. And usually there's a step of retirement in between, or they don't have to go to long-term care, but that is at the stat they're like right where they are then, right? And it's like you said, when people go to hospital, the likelihood that they're going to need another type of building, whether it's retirement or long-term care, is much higher, and long-term care is more of a thing then, because we don't know how people are going to heal. The other thing is that, should you break a hip, for instance, other than, obviously what you had mentioned, is the fact that like there's a huge recovery time involved with that. And you're kind of, again, falls happen, right? So that's a thing. But if you're not trying to be safe in your home, that's something you may just have to face. And nobody's really considering it, I find. Like in the conversations I'm having, oh yeah, like we know, oh yeah. And it's professionals like you and I that are like, no, please listen to me. We want you to stay home as long as possible. Yeah. Or we want you just to enjoy life in whatever venue you want. But in order to do that, you have to plan appropriately.
Well, that's it. Exactly. The planning is key. And I think the majority of calls we get from older clients and older adults is usually a reactive call. So there's been a fall, and usually the two riskiest areas is the bathroom. So someone steps out of the shower, tries to step over the high tub, and there's a fall right between the tub and the toilet, and there's nothing to grab to get up. And the other one's on stairs. Those are the two biggest fall risk areas. So yeah, there needs to be that proactive thinking ahead before this happens. And then you can actually put some thought into how you want it to look, and how you want it to feel, and how we can accommodate if there's other people in the home to make it look, exactly how you would if it was just a regular renovation that you were undertaking, to be stylish or with fitting it with what is already in the home.
Yeah.
I find our younger clients, at least the ones who are either living with a newly acquired injury or disability, although there can be, some struggling, some trying times if we're trying to plan this while they're in the hospital. I find that we can do a lot more comprehensive work when that proactive plan is there, and we can chat with occupational therapists and other healthcare providers. But like you said, yeah, I mean, you don't want to wait until you can't make that choice, whether it's the fact that you want to stay in your home or you want to move to a retirement home, either way, um, putting some plans in place for either location is so important.
Well, planning gives you choice, right? And that's something that we're always talking about, generally speaking. And I don't know about you, but thinking about people falling downstairs keeps me up at night. And recently was with a client that's 101, and I watched her come down those stairs with a caregiver, with a handle. Both of them almost came down the stairs, right? And I can see you, right? And it's like that is the reaction both of us have as professionals, that's terrifying. And this person doesn't want to move out of their house, fine. But please just do something, right? Make sure that you're safe, because your choices are going to be limited. And unfortunately, it's still consistent to us. Like, both of our companies have been around 10 years, right? And it's still consistent that people are just not looking at it, and they're waiting, and they're calling us in crisis. Like, for us especially, like, we deal with people that are proactive, absolutely, and we work through things, but most of the people that call us are in crisis because they just didn't do it, or they just put their head in the sand, or they ignored a conversation, or whatever. And we're digging people out of crisis all the time, and that's no way to live. I mean, especially if you can plan appropriately, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many nice things that you can do now too. There's so many options. But I think a lot of us get caught up thinking that our home will end up looking like a hospital by putting certain things in place, whether it's grab bars or a stair lift. And although, yes, the stair lift is going to stand out, and you'll see it is an obvious chair that will go up, or a vertical platform lift, but oh my gosh, do they ever make a huge difference? We've had them installed in places where if they were proactively planning, and in the meantime, just to be safe, they would use the stair lift to send their laundry up, and then they would follow using the handrail. But hey, whatever works until you get to that point, because, if mobility is already a challenge and you're carrying laundry bins,
mobility is a challenge for me on the stairs with laundry. Let me just say that.
No,
all of us can fall. We all have problems. I was chasing the cat the other day, and I went right down on my back, right? So it's like, we all have these issues, and that's the thing. I think we need to take the stigma away from it.
That's it. It's the stigma.
Yeah. And
I think if we start, there's younger people that are taking this on and becoming a little more proactive too, which I think is fantastic. But yeah, if we can remove that stigma and just normalize that some modifications are really fantastic in improving your independence, keeping you safe wherever you are, at home, in a retirement home, for as long as possible. That's what you want. You want to stay healthy. Yeah. We know we're living a lot longer, but we're not living longer in a healthy way.
Right.
So yeah, the statistics on people living with disabilities in Ontario alone is massive. Up to 25%, 24%, I believe. And that's all, including all types of, neurodivergent disabilities as well. And then by 2030, I think we're going to be 1 in 4 people in Ontario or in Canada actually are going to be over 65.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So the older population is going to be the majority of our population. So now's the time to, forget stigma, keep yourself safe.
Who cares, right?
The world here, who run Canada, you know what I mean? Like, you'll be the dominant population, and it's an easy thing to do, to make those plans.
Yeah. Well, and so while we're talking about falls, but a couple of different things too, just off the top of my head as well, other fall prevention techniques are get rid of the rugs, right? We don't want trip hazards. Get rid of those extension cords that might be going around, like connecting your life. Like, we need to get rid of that stuff. One other thing that we talk about is animals. Don't get rid of your animals. That's not what I'm saying. But they are trip hazards. Brad walks under my feet and I'm down, right? So you have to be careful of those. And then lighting. So do you guys do a lot of, accessible lighting as well? Like, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So lighting is huge. I think the best type of lighting you can do in your home is to have automatic or sensor lighting. especially if you're one to get up and go pee a bunch of times in the middle of the night. I'm one of them. And if you have a partner that you're sleeping beside, or your cat named Brad, which is the best cat name ever, by the way, I love it. But you don't want to wake anyone up, so you're tiptoeing. You don't want to turn on lights, but you're not going to see any of the hazards, whether it's the rug, loose cords. I've walked into the door. I will absolutely admit that.
I've walked into the door.
Go out and the light just goes on without you having to fiddle around trying to feel for things.
Yeah.
It can add a lot of safety. There's also different things too if you're living with any neurological conditions or brain injuries, even concussions. If there's something going on in that regard, different lighting levels and lumens can make a really big difference as well to your recovery, because really straining big lights can add a lot of pressure to your mind.
That's really interesting.
So that one's definitely a big one.
I think, again, just like falls, automatic lighting enhances all of our lives. We have automatic lighting when we, a certain time at night it comes on. We do night lights that are automatic that come on, but all of it, right? Even people that have young children like you and I, like lights when they need to go to the bathroom at night and things like that. It just, again, these things are across our ages, right? It's not specifically just for our senior population. It's just people.
That's exactly it. And the designer grab bars now that are out there are great for everyone. So these beautiful designer grab bars now, and they don't break the bank, but they don't look like a grab bar. They hold your toiletries. There's even towel bars that hold your towel, but also support 500 pounds of weight.
They're so much better.
They're gorgeous too. And there's like toilet paper holders. So you have your toilet roll paper holder, and that's also used, that can be, when properly installed, just to be clear, 500 pounds of weight. So even if you're a young mom or an old mom and you're giving your kid a bath, we had a shower shelf, and it was so great if I having to lean over and pull myself up while bending over to help her. It's just, they make such a difference. And I think the more people, if we just standardize having these things in our bathrooms and around, it would be so much better.
Yeah, the advancements that I've seen, like I've been in this industry 20 years, the advancements I've seen in accessibility and being friends with you is like all the stuff that I'm exposed to, right? And it's just come so far. And these grab bars that, I've seen are just amazing. And we have some here actually too. So you guys installed them.
They're better for everyone, right?
Yeah, they're good.
This extends to, actually, I should mention the ones that we install are there's a local company here called Healthcraft. So they're made here in Ottawa, which is awesome. Another way to support local, but they're really high quality.
Yeah.
The steels and aluminums that they're using to make these are fantastic, and they take our feedback directly too. So if you have feedback, for instance, and you're like, I really wish I had a grab bar that was designed this way, they'd want to meet with you and find out why and do their best to create something that's more functional, even if it doesn't exist at this point.
That's what's really nice. Sorry, I was going to say that's what's really nice about small business too, right? Like we're, as small business owners and local, we're all very adaptable on what we offer, right? And we want to know how it's helping people or not.
100%. And it's really nice being in the Ottawa community, because it is a lot of really compassionate small businesses that just, they want to achieve the mission of helping people out. And that's what I love working with you, Amy, and also the other companies like Healthcraft who are developing these products too. It's great.
Yeah.
Another big one I just wanted to mention too. So there's the bathroom. The bathroom's a big guy. I could talk about that on end. I would say that's kind of the majority of the work we do, right? Because that's our personal space. And having caregivers in is sometimes a need, and it's wonderful, but other times, you want to keep your independence where you go to the bathroom and having a shower for as long as possible. So there's so many things that we can do in that regard now, and it's also in retirement homes, because not all of them are, as you know, accessible or designed for you specifically. So removing, the threshold getting in and out of a tub is for sure the first thing you'd want to address. I know some people love having baths. I do. I'm a bather. But if you're having trouble getting in and out, that might be time to make a change. Or there are things now where you can get at some of the mobility shops. We don't put them in, but there's bath lifts, and they're not the ones that come from the ceiling. They kind of sit out on the top of your tub, almost like a bench, and you lower yourself down into a nice bubble bath with a remote control that's waterproof. There's so many things out there now that, what do you love to do? We don't want to take that away, but we need to modify things in a way that you're safe and you can do it on your own for the lengthiest time possible.
Well, and there's also bathtub cutouts, but there's ones that also have the door. Kind of,
yeah, that's right.
That in between option. You don't have to step over and have that danger, but if you can get up, or you have one of the grab bars and you can get up, then there's that in between option too.
There is, yeah. So I love the tub cut. It's like kind of one of those very quick, affordable fixes if you need accessibility right away. Mm-hmm. We often get calls from the hospital for discharge, just to, can we do this, get in quick to make this bathtub safer. And what you do is you cut out the front wall of the tub and you put in a custom fit threshold that you can step on or step over, or have a transfer bench where you can slide your legs without trying to get over a slippy high tub wall.
Yeah.
And it's done in about an hour, which is great. Normally the ones with the doors, we don't typically recommend for someone if they're already having trouble getting up and down. Yeah. But if they have a kid in the house or someone else who likes to bathe, then that's a good option. So, because there's so many homes that have multi abilities, right? So there could be someone that is fully able-bodied and, could cartwheel into a bathtub, and there's others who are living with disabilities or mobility challenges, and they need a different way to get in and have their independence while they either have a bath or a shower. Well, those are great.
Yeah, and I think that we work with a lot of families as well that are moving mom and dad into their house. And I've seen a lot of this, and we're always kind of talking about is that the best option? Have you looked at everything? Because essentially, when people get into renos, a lot of them do purpose-built not for them. They do it for the senior moving in. But there's a way, if you can, think it through, with Kyla's team or whomever, of how do we make this accessible but multi-generational, so that they eventually could use the accessibility things as they need. But what's the in-between option where you're not then living in a home that's not designed for you, essentially?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. We're seeing a lot more of that happening, which is great. And I think with the cost of housing itself, it's really making people rethink how long they're going to stay somewhere, and whether an older relative may move in with them, or how long your kids are going to stay, depending on what stage of life you're at. It's a huge consideration now. And I think the government's realized that as well. I saw a question about tax credits, and there is a multi-generational home tax credit now, finally, which is great. Yeah. So if you are making, an in-house unit for a relative, I think you can claim up to $50,000. I'm not sure. It's on my blog. I can share that with Amy after, but I have a breakdown of all the tax credits. And then you can claim a certain amount, and then you can design something that still looks gorgeous. It could be something where you rent it out to people if you needed extra income, or you have family members that are there too. But at least in that case, that it could be done safely, and it doesn't have to look like a hospital setting, which is huge. Yeah. I just saw a question here in the chat about, is it okay if I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Amy just sort of leads into this. So it says, do you know if the bathtub cutout can be claimed under a health expense or tax? So depending on when it was done, in 2021 and 2022, there was the Ontario Seniors Home Renovation Tax Credit. So if it was done during that time, you can claim it under that and the home accessibility tax credit, which is federal. And that federal one is still going. So even if it was after that, you could still claim it under the home accessibility tax credit when you file your taxes. So just hang on to your receipts. And I'm not sure the exact amount. I think they just bumped it up to $20,000. And the bathtub cutout would absolutely fall under that. So tub cuts, grab bars, if you make your bathroom accessible, right height toilets with toilet risers, ramps, accessible kitchen products. All of that can be claimed under this tax credit. It's not huge, but it's still something. So definitely use it if you can.
I think it's really important to find whatever money you can find, right? We have a couple of blogs out as well about what CRA will allow you to claim. And the other one that kind of goes with all scenarios is the disability tax credit as well, right?
Yes.
And so, like, multi-purpose, kind of get your accountant on it to see, okay, there's a lot of moving pieces, and what are you able to claim? Because a lot of people don't know about these grants, and they don't, even the disability tax credit, which is pretty regular in my life as a professional, like we talk about all the time, lots of people have no idea about it. And it's really important because there's a lot of people trying to and needing to save some money. And that's why people stay home, because it's paid off and all that, and they're trying to do as much as they can in their home before moving. But it's important to educate yourselves on what the tax credits are so you can take advantage of them.
Oh, 100%. And we're coming into tax season right now too, right? So it's a good time to sort of pull out those receipts if you've done anything.
Yeah.
And make sure you do, if you're eligible, if you meet the requirements, put in an application for the disability tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the renovation ones, they either apply to if you're over 65 or over 70, it's all there, they're all various. Or if you have been approved for the disability tax credit, it's usually one or the other, or both. So yeah, it's a really great point to meet up with your financial planner or accountant and just have a chat about what can be claimed if you move. Sometimes moving expenses can be covered for certain things. If you're moving into a retirement home, or if you're temporarily moving to respite while renovations are happening, some of that, depending on your situation, could be covered.
Well,
and yeah, it's there for a reason. So use it.
Right? In retirement long-term care, they also have a whole other list of claimable stuff, right? You get tax breakdowns every year, and there's stuff you can claim on that too. Again, I publish 2 different blogs because it's different depending on where you're living. And we'll send those out as well. But it's just a matter of educating yourself and, trying to figure out how to save that much money. Kyle and I could go on forever about strategies and trying to figure that out. Does anybody have any other questions while we're online today? I'll wait for a couple of minutes just to see if anything pops up. While we're just waiting for a couple of minutes, can you let us know? We talked about stairs briefly, but I think there's more to be said. So
I think I started to talk about it and then just diverted into bathrooms again. So absolutely. So those are the 2 areas. If you're going to start anywhere, that's where you want to go. But stairs, just thinking, you're coming home, you got to think about how you're going to get in your house. And your story about the caregiver going up the stairs with your client,
terrifying.
We see this just getting in the front door, because there usually is a couple of steps leading up to a door. Sadly, that's just been the design situation for so long. New builds too, unfortunately. So we need to think about how we're going to get in our home safely. So look at the front and the back, because you want a safe way to get out if one entrance is blocked as well. So not just doing one area would be key if you can. In many cases, you can put a ramp in the front. There are space limitations for doing ramps. Like, there's different grading that has to be done, and you need space essentially if this is what you're going to do. And if you don't like the look of that out of your front door for whatever reason, we've also done ramps in garages, which is nice because then you don't have to think about snow clearing, which is another factor to think about in Canada. And the other option is just getting in those front stairs is what's called, or your garage stairs is called a VPL. So that's a vertical platform lift. So it can only go up a couple feet, like about 6 feet, or 6 stairs. And it's like almost like a little mini elevator. And so again, you have to think about snow coverage and where we could put that. But those ones make a big difference. And even just the tiniest little thresholds can cause falls.
Yeah.
So whether that's like stepping, some bathrooms have like a little step. Oh my gosh, it can cause such a big fall. And there's little threshold ramps that you can even buy in some of the mobility shops now. I'm trying to think of like convolades and mobility basics. They're little rubber thresholds that can make a big difference. And it's just usually an inch or like that first little step into your front stairs. That's huge. In terms of stairs in your house.
I was gonna say on those thresholds, I smash my toes all the time coming in my patio doors, right? Like,
oh yeah, I've fully broken my pinky toes doing it. Not pretty. I think we've all done it, but yeah, they're easy to address. It's just finding the right product. And then the obviously the flights of stairs in your house. So stair lifts are one option to put in. A straight stair lift is actually relatively affordable and easy to install. If you have a curved staircase, it is very pricey. So you'd be looking at considering maybe some different options there. But they are wonderful if you can do it and if it's your long-term plan. And they are also eligible for the tax write-offs, and you don't pay HST on lifts, which is a good little bonus. They're considered zero rated. And one of the other ones in terms of accessing your whole home because of stairs is an in-home elevator. Now, obviously, this is the priciest option. It's basically what we would do. Buildable would build the hoistway. So that's basically the addition where the cab would run. You need a little bit of space, but we've been able to maneuver full elevators through closets. We get, and it's nice. And some of them, they go right down to the garage. So you get out of your car, you're in a warm space, you can get right into the elevator and go to every level in your floor. Because there's so many houses too that are just stacked up on top of each other. And this makes a big difference. If you're curious, they're probably, depending on what you do, anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000.
Yeah.
So big consideration, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, all options, right? The other minor but still fall risk on stairs is clutter, right? And so let's get rid of the clutter. I'm terrible for it myself. All the things that have to go upstairs are on the stairs. So just pay attention to that as well on stairs, eh?
That's a big one. Yeah. And even if you just want some minor supports in the meantime, having bilateral handrails, so handrails on both sides, can make a difference. If it's outside, making sure you have a sturdy, properly installed handrail at your outside stairs, and not the wood frame, like, what's the word? I'm losing my train of thought here, but when you build stairs outside, they often have a nice sort of flush wood pathway down that like sort of goes over the railings. Those are not considered handrails. They're too big for hands. You should have a separate handrail going down the side that you can hold on to. I hope that makes sense when I'm describing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Diane wants to have you talk about walk-in tubs.
Oh, yes. Okay. So Buildable doesn't do those. Not for any reason specifically. We didn't love them at first when they were all coming out. It's something we may branch into down the road. But a big concern with the walk-in tubs is that they still have quite a threshold to step into. And then you get in and you close the door and it's sealed. And then you got to sit there
and freeze
while it fills up. Yeah, and it's freezing. And then you have to sit there and wait until it drains. And you're freezing. And you're sitting there naked. And you still have a big step to get out of. So some people love them. That's the biggest complaints we've heard about, and it becomes a concern. The colder you get, you're shaking, you're wanting to get out, you want to grab a towel. So we know in some instances, some people put heat lamps over top. And I know manufacturers like American Standard actually is they're trying to develop a system where it drains really, really fast. So you may have to, it still will take the time to fill up, but it's one where they're trying to work on a system where it drains much quicker. So you're able to get in and out. And some of them have some extra heating features as well. So they're starting to change now to address those concerns that users have had. So, I know a lot of people love them and they're really great. Again, I'm a bather. The therapy that you get from that hot water and sitting in the hot water, and especially if you live with a chronic illness and not having the effort of trying to climb out of a tub, you just step in. That piece is great if you still have that mobility. But those have been concerns. So that's like the pros and the cons of both.
Yeah.
Also, you can claim those on your tax credits as well if you do install them.
Great.
Which is a bonus.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't see any other questions, but I will send this out to everyone that's here. I'll send a copy of the webinar and some blogs so that you guys know the claimable stuff, so that you guys are ahead of the game. Yeah, Kyla, any other final thoughts? I told you that would happen.
I know. You can call me anything. I've been Carla, I've been Kayla, you know. It's all good.
I was doing so well.
You are.
It's because we have a Kayla on our team and it's just ingrained in my brain.
It's all good. No, final thoughts is just please be proactive. Take a look around. Take a look at what needs to be addressed, and don't wait until it's a crisis. You know, if you're considering a walk-in tub, now's the time that you can sit back and go, okay, what are the pros and cons to this? Or what are the pros and cons to a fully barrier-free shower? Or if you're living with a specific disability, you know, I'm just gonna throw this out. You're living with MS. What stage are you at? What type of MS do you have? Will it progress to the point where you may need a wheelchair? And how can we plan ahead for that in your home, or whether you're going to move? So just, that's the biggest takeaway for me is, you will stay independent and healthy and happier longer if you start planning and what you want, as opposed to someone choosing for you what you need.
For sure. Yeah. And one last thought too on physical stuff like MS and Parkinson's, all sorts of different things. Like, a lot of people tell us, well, we don't know what to expect. It's difficult. Dementia's difficult. It's different for everybody. But what I would say is that there is information out there to give you a generalized idea. All the physical things like MS and stuff, definitely you're most likely going to get to somewhere where you need all the support, right? And so if you're already dealing with something like that, being proactive is going to be one of the better things for you to do, because although you don't know how your body will adapt to these things, there are some, not standardized, but there's definitely information about how it can, and kind of be able to plan that way.
Yeah, and just reach out and chat with people, because I think some of the organizations, depending on if it's a specific disability or not, a lot of people have resource personnel on staff that will say, oh yeah, have you thought about lighting? Have you thought about, these little seat risers that can help you get up and down if there's a muscle degeneration? Most people involved in this, we want to talk about it. We want to share. Even if you don't work with us, we want to give you the information so you're safe, or we'll connect you and
take all our information.
Reach out. Yeah.
It's all there for you. Take it. Oh
yeah.
Dear. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's been very valuable and insightful, and I'm sure our listeners feel the same way. So thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks everyone for coming. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.